how did we get here? How did we get just 2 years ago, James Harden essentially demanding a trade out from Brooklyn to Philadelphia to play alongside James Harden? I mean, to play alongside Joel Embiid. How did we get here? Well, first and foremost, we got here because of unmet expectations. I talk about expectations a lot on this show. I talk about expectations a lot when we talk about either unrealistic expectations that teams have, unrealistic or exceeding expectations. Every team, every player should have an expectation of how their current situation or how their career should go, right? And when you pair James Harden, who we know the history of James Harden, we know the James Harden from Houston. Hell, we even know, to a lesser extent, of course, but the James Harden from Brooklyn. When you pair James Harden with an MVP caliber at that point, an MVP caliber player in Joel Embiid, you expect at least to make it to the conference championship. At least. And that is the and emphasis on the at least part. You expect such a high turn on investment when you trade a Ben Simmons, who, by the way, before the trade was a multiple time All-Star. You trade him to get James Harden, a more offensively minded, more offensively gifted player. So that's when you pair him up, then you see the emergence of Tyrese Maxey and how he's emerging as one of the best young guards in the league. The expectations are through the roof. You know, you expect to at least, and the I cannot emphasize enough, at least make it to the conference championship. Because, again, you have a former MVP. At the time, he wasn't an MVP, but you have an MVP caliber player in Joel Embiid. You have a coach in Doc Rivers who's been to the NBA Finals, who's won an NBA championship, and you have an emerging star, and you have a solid team. Hell, people love to crap on Tobias Harris, but he is a solid fourth or fifth piece. So when those don't happen, when expectations don't happen, let me tell you what happens. There you go. Let's go that route. Let me tell you what happens when expectations aren't met. Players start to get restless. Players start to get upset. Teams start to get restless. Teams start to get upset. Fans start to get restless. Fans start to get upset. So now you're in a situation where those expectations start to turn into frustration. Because it's like, why is it that what we were promised or what we know we're capable of is not happening? So then unrealistic and unceremonious fingers start to get pointed. Well, maybe we're not reaching this point because of X player. Maybe we're not reaching this point because of the coach. Maybe we're not reaching this point because injuries. It's hard to explain. Actually, no, it's not. It's not that hard to explain why we look up and Joel Embiid, who is now the reigning MVP, James Harden, who is a former MVP, former Sixth Man of the Year, multiple-time All-Star, member of the NBA 75 Club. It's very obvious to point, and we can see clear as day why that team did not ultimately at least make it to the conference finals. It's because when you need people to step up in big situations or in situations when they're needed to increase their output, they have not been able to do that. All we're going to talk about for the foreseeable future. When we talk about this Philadelphia situation is, of course, we're going to talk about James Harden. We're going to talk about how James Harden, how his playoff numbers drastically declined from his regular season, or how the James Harden that not just in Philadelphia, but James Harden in general, how it just seems like his playoff, when he hits the playoffs, his game just drastically takes a nosedive. But we have time today. So let me shelf this James Harden conversation for a second. Let me talk solely to Joel Embiid. Because trust and believe, this we're going to fully dissect this James Harden situation and you know why James Harden wants to trade, where he can go. We're going to talk about all that. But what I want to do, because I don't see a lot of people doing this. In fact, I see a lot of people absolving Joel Embiid for the lack of success that the Philadelphia 76ers have had. You see, it's not just on Doc Rivers. It's not just on James Harden. It's not just on Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey. Joel Embiid is their best player. We talked about legacies, right? Imagine if someone as great as Hakeem Olajuwon never made it to a conference final, or to this point of his career has not made it to a conference finals. And how it's looking right now, doesn't seem like he's going to make a conference finals in the foreseeable future. Imagine that. Imagine if Nikola Jokic never made it to a conference final. Imagine if Tim Duncan never made it to a conference final. What I'm saying, and in the big moments when Hakeem Olajuwon was needed, Tim Duncan was needed, Nikola Jokic was needed, Shaquille O'Neal was needed, they come up short every single time. We would kill them. Or, let me say this, we would have a very hard conversation about their ranking in the all-time rankings, about how are they really a superstar? Are they really a franchise-changing player? Don't get me wrong, man. Joel Embiid is all that in a bag of chips. Joel Embiid is a phenomenal center. He's one of the most skilled offensively. He's one of the most skilled big men we've ever seen. When there's not much of a drop off when we talk about his offensive game compared to his defensive game. Defensively, he's one of the best centers in the league. Offensively, he's one of the best centers in the league. But that does not negate the fact that he has come up short every single time in the playoffs. I mean, think about it. You had a 3-2 lead against the Boston Celtics this year. And you had game 6 at your crib, up 3-2. And you get destroyed, like blown out. Oh no, you lose. You get destroyed game 7. You lose. Hell, James Harden won Philadelphia 2 games this year. Now, yes, those games that he did win, he averaged like 32 points or something like that. But the games that they lost, he averaged like 12. So that is a precipitous drop. But what I'm saying is this. When we talk about why Philadelphia is here, and when you look up what is here, you're going to lose arguably your best. No, ain't really no arguably, even though I do like Tyrese Maxey. You're losing your second best player, probably. You're nowhere closer to a championship than you were before your second best player got there. And your team is going to look drastically different. And as we talked today, the reigning MVP has never been to a conference finals. People talk about the big shot that Kawhi Leonard had against Philly. which, by the way, had had Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler on that team. And they talk about the big shot, the Game 7 shot that Kawhi Leonard hit. Mind you, that was not in the conference finals. Toronto had to go on, I think, and play Milwaukee. Joel Embiid has never been to a conference finals. Not once. And a lot of his lack of success in the playoffs definitely has gotten to this point. It's not the main reason. Don't get me wrong. It's not the main reason at all. It's definitely a subplot to this. But it is here. It is there. And it is what it is. But let's get back to James Harden. And as we just talked about Joel Embiid, James Harden has just as much to do with the lack of success or the lack of advancement in the playoffs the same amount of, blame you can say that Joel Embiid has. I've said this time and time again. In fact, I said this when they got James Harden. They didn't bring in James Harden to lead the league in assist. Yes, they want James Harden to be a great assist man because, you're playing with arguably one of the best, if not the best center in the league at the time. But they didn't bring James Harden there to be an assist man. They brought James Harden to bring the scoring repertoire that he had in Houston. They wanted that James Harden. That James Harden not only could have brought them to a conference championship, that James Harden possibly could have got them to an NBA Finals. Think about it. The James Harden that we saw in Houston probably would have made it to an NBA Finals if they did not run into the Dynasty Warriors, the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry Warriors. But that James Harden is far from gone. The James Harden that Philly got was the inconsistent, timid at times, lost at times, sensational at times, downright frustrating James Harden. To the point where you look up, this is, to me, that trade, when you look at the aftermath of the James Harden-Ben Simmons trade, this is the first lose-lose trade I can remember in the NBA. Because when you look up, what did Philly really get? They got to the same exact place that they were in when they had Ben Simmons. And the Nets did nothing. There was a lot that got them to this point. A lot of things. And we sit here today, and this is yet another stop that didn't work for James Harden. And yet another stop where James Harden was expected to be more than what he produced. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.